Hello, namaste, and a very warm welcome to all the viewers. Bhagavad Gita, the divine nectar that has kept our souls alive since centuries. It's the wisdom of all the Vedas and Puranas combined in one. This universal and eternal epic is beyond religion, race, caste, and creed. It has been enriching humanity ever since it came into existence. We have with us today Jeffery Armstrong, author, poet, relationship expert, Ayurvedic astrologer, keynote speaker, yogi, philosopher. Jeffery is a relationship expert too. He's a practitioner and teacher of the Vedas for over 40 years. He's a sought after guest expert on TV and talk shows on the radio for 15 years. He was a corporate executive in the Silicon Valley and a speaker for Fortune 500 companies and was written about regularly in USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, LA Times, Huffington Post, CNN, Vancouver Sun, Hindu Today, and many others. Jeffery was recently awarded the ICCR Distinguished Indologist Award in 2021. And he's the author of the decolonized Bhagavad Gita Comes Alive. We are very fortunate to have Jeffery Armstrong in our studio. Please welcome Jeffery G.
Thank you so much, Anjalee. What a lovely introduction. And what an honor to be with you because of the work you're doing and bringing the Vedic Vidya out to the world. And especially, it's exciting to me. You're like Saraswati Ma. You even look like her, but you have her inside. You are the wisdom voice of the feminine divine speaking the Vedic Vidya. What an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm truly humbled, Jeffery G. So tell us something about yourself and what inspired you turn towards Sanatan Dharma.
At a very young age, by the age of 13, in fact, at 13, I came home to dinner with my parents and 4 younger siblings. And I said, "Oh, Mom, Dad, by the way, I've been thinking, I really appreciate all you've done so far, but from now on, I'll make all my own decisions." And they looked at me like, "Who is this?" So who I am is a yogi come back from a previous birth. So when I grew up in Western civilization, I looked at it and said, well, that's nice, but not quite right. No, that hasn't answered all the questions. And I answered those questions only when I found my Vedic gurus, one of Sanskritam, a Banaras Pandit named Ramanath Sharma, the teacher of Vedanta to me, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who made the Krishna movement. Mm-hmm. And I spent 5 years in his ashrams. Mm-hmm. And then on my own as well, and then my teacher of Jyotish, M.K. Gandhi. So I've had 3 authentic gurus, and what I've learned is from their grace.
Oh, this is so enlightening to know you. And have you ever met Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada?
I lived with him for 5 years. I was his right-hand man in translating the Bhagavad Purana, perfecting his English. So the first 4 cantos of the Bhagavad Purana are specifically a project that I worked on at that time that I was in the ashram. So I had the honor of being with him for 5 years quite consistently.
This is interesting. Is there any experience that you've had with him which you think you could share with the rest of us, which will benefit us spiritually?
All right. Yes, I'll try to be brief. He would regularly introduce us to new mantras. I was in the temple in New York. There were about 400 people in the room who were his disciples, myself included. But this day I sat right in front of him. I was the guard at his door to his room. So I sat right in front of him. He was 3 feet away. And he taught us a new mantra.
Mhm.
Jaya Rahadi had cartels. Hamad Hava Kunja Bihari. And as he did, tears squirted out of his eyes 3 feet into the audience and squirted all over my face. And I sat there bathed in the tears of my guru as he introduced us to Radha and Krishna.
So beautiful, so beautiful. He is the epitome of devotion. And we all take so much of inspiration from his life, from his writings, from his bhajans. So I think thank you so much for sharing this very beautiful, sweet experience with us. So, on the same note, talking about Geeta Jayanti, December 22nd is Geeta Jayanti. What significance does this time of the year have?
Well, of course, this is the winter solstice. This means it is the time, after all, the mantra that all Brahmins do, all yogis do, Om Bhu Bhuva Sva, Tat Savitur Varenyam. So Savitri is the light and energy of the sun, and Surya is the sun. So Surya moves into various positions which cause the equinoxes and the solstices. So the winter solstice is when the darkest moment passes and the sun starts to return. And that is where we are right now. And that moment, no doubt, not accidentally, coincides with the delivery of the light of the Gita. And
Oh,
so we celebrate it on that day.
well, I think that was quite a knowledge that you have shared with us. I never imagined that this was astrologically related and astrologically so much relevant. Uh, but you just mentioned that Prabhupada ji was one of the people who inspired you on your spiritual journey. But you are celebrated authors. So, other than Prabhupada ji, what was the inspiration behind your book, Bhagavad Gita Comes Alive?
The most important thing to understand about colonization from the British was at one point they brought a scholar in named Macaulay,
Mhm.
and they sent him to India and said, "Come back and tell us how we can destroy this culture and dominate it." That was his assignment. And he came back and said, "I've been to India. No one there are no criminals. Everyone is very gentle and refined. We must remove the Sanskrit language. That is the only possibility, and replace it with English." So I am demacaulinizing. I have removed from the Bhagavad Gita all the inappropriate English words, which we don't have time to cover here. But trust me that the English language is filled with unreliable terminology that is not precise. And we're still using that. All the great acharyas that came to the West still used incorrect English words: God, sin, heaven, hell. All those are Christian terms, inappropriate for translating the Bhagavad Gita. And yet they were used. So the Gita Comes Alive was me as a linguist serving the cause by removing the toxic English.
Sanskrit, they say, is a scientific and mathematical language. Recently, I read in the news that even NASA has recognized Sanskrit to be very, very I mean, not just mathematical, even for scientific advancements, they can use to code, decode some Sanskrit.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering that when India had such a rich civilization, what why was this mindset existing that in somebody who didn't belong, that oh, we should destroy the civilization, when they could have even learned from it or maybe added to it? So why this mindset that let's destroy it? What makes people go on, take this route of destroying civilizations, destroying um, uh, people's cultures, which is enriching them, which is making them gentle and good people. So, what kind of a mindset is this?
One of my favorite questions, Anjali. Behind English, behind the European languages is Latin. But some of the European languages, what's behind them is Sanskrit. That's true for German, it's true for Russian. Russia is Rishia. So there, we haven't been told that Sanskrit is the grandmother language of all the knowledge-based languages on our planet. And this has been kept from us so that we wouldn't understand the true authority of the Vedic culture of Bharat. I say Bharat rather than India. I use each correct word because if we reintroduce these words, we will undo what Macaulay did. Macaulay said, on a small bookshelf here in my office, there is more important information in English histories than the entire library of India. Really? You've read it all, Macaulay? You understand the magnitude of what you're talking about? No, not at all. So we've been Macaulayized, but we've also been conquered by the Pope. The Pope issued the papal bull that told everyone, go out in the world and conquer in the name of Jesus. Now, wait a minute. I was raised Christian. Jesus, gentle, meek, and mild, wants us to go conquer the world. I'm a little confused. Yeah, or somebody is. Maybe I'm not confused, and maybe the Jesus people doing that are confused. Now, I've met some really nice Jesus people, and if they're like Jesus, they're nice people. The rest haven't been that way, and that's 98% of them. So right now, we don't know about Sanskrit because of colonization. Still hasn't gotten down.
Absolutely. Jesus only taught love. He never owned anything. He was even unjustly crucified, and he still forgave his enemies. And I wish we could be just maybe 0.1% of that.
Which makes us know he was a yogi of some kind or another. Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a lot of reverence for him.
Of course. Like any sadhu.
So my next question to you, that now that you are talking about demacalizing, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct.
Demacaulayizing.
Decolonizing the Bhagavad Gita. Who is the target audience for this new version of your Bhagavad Gita?
Actually, it's the Hindu youth. Because the great legacy that they've received is most likely to be stolen from them if they don't understand this history and how to use both English and Sanskrit. So actually, the Gita comes alive as an example of using English correctly, taking out the unclear words or the propagandizing words, and taking out the colonizing word, of taking out the colonizing words and leaving the correct Sanskrit. So I'm currently writing a book, 108 Sanskrit words every yogi must know. Because without the Sanskrit vocabulary, we can't describe the worldview. And your first question is very important. The reason the whole world has been treated the way it was by the 3 lifetime religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and especially the latter two, is because they only believe they have one lifetime. And this has made them all frightened, desperate, aggressive. One life, it's fear-based religion. The Veda says, first of all, you're immortal, you can't die. There's no way you could die, even if you try. You're an immortal Atma, and you live forever. And we start there. And this is the difference. And this is coming back because people are dissatisfied and they become what they call spiritual, but that's not a very informative word. Next, who took to yoga hundreds of millions of what? Ladies. Why? Well, just 100 years ago, ladies couldn't vote or own property in North America. So wait a minute. Is that Christian? I think it is. There's only a male deity.
Yeah.
But for us from Bharat, this is a terrible way to be. And so, first, the ladies of North America took to yoga, and now the vocabulary of Sanskrit is necessary to explain yoga. Back to you.
So, Jeffrey G, could you give us example of, let's say 2, 3 words from your decolonized vocabulary, maybe something that we need to know that you have used in your the new text, the new version of Bhagavad Gita?
Certainly. Well, Christians think they want to go to heaven, but they don't know what the English word heaven really means. It actually came from Old English, and the word it came from is Avon. And Avon means oats, because in Scotland, especially after the glaciers scraped all the soil off, you couldn't grow crops much. So they grow oats, and the oats grow about this tall, and then they get a sickle and they come and they cut them down, and then they take a pitchfork and throw them into a big tall wagon, which is called heaving the Avon, and that gave us the word heaven, and it means enough oatmeal for the winter. That's all the word heaven means, enough oatmeal for the winter. It does not mean anything else.
So how did it take this dimension of another realm where all the people are going? I mean, all this havoc in today's world is about reaching heaven. And what, for all religions, what is it that they can do which will quickly get them there? So how from oats?
They're afraid, one lifetime only. So they point there and go, Avon, 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 because they have no idea what's going on there. They don't have devas and devis like the Vedic culture. They just haven't. So this is just one of the words. Here's another one, sin, which in Sanskrit is himsa. And that himsa became sinsa. H and S switch quite a bit linguistically. Mm-hmm. So if you aspirate the S, it becomes hin. So sin, himsa becomes sin. So sin in Christianity means you're going to hell. But in the Vedas, it means you're getting karma because you can't die. But it's highly recommended that we don't unnecessarily harm others. So all these ancient words got twisted. Here's one more you'll like. What do you call a heart doctor? What's the technical term?
Cardiologist?
Yeah, cardiologist. But cardia in Latin means the heart. But cardia in the Latin came from hridaya in the Sanskrit.
Wow, interesting. Very, very interesting. Never thought of that.
So to be a heart specialist is to be a yogi.
Is to be a yogi, absolutely. So in your opinion, okay, I'm not saying in your opinion, but in your, with the amount of knowledge and wisdom and insight that you have gained into the Vedas and the Puranas, what are heaven and hell from their perspective, if you could share it with us?
Well, this brings us back to the Bhagavad Gita, because after all, the Mahabharata was the acting out of two different points of view. One is dharmic, personified by Yudhisthira. And do you know what Duryodhana means? Dirty fighter, Duryodhana. And his father was Drita Rashtra, blinded by the real estate, stealing the land. So what did the people do when the Pope sent them out? Oh, they went out and stole everyone's land. They were Drita Rashtra. They were Duryodhana. They were harmful to everyone in a selfish way. And what was Yudhisthira? Dharma personified. And what is Dharma personified? What does a real Kshatriya do? They take care of everyone. They don't hurt them. They protect them. So the protector. So this story of the Mahabharata is an epic surrounding the avatar of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, which brings us back to the Gita. And the fact that the Gita was spoken in the midst of war, sounds like our world, And in the midst of war, truths were spoken that would change the way we look at everything so that we could again learn to cooperate with each other. The message of the Bhagavad Gita.
Absolutely. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that doubt which I had in my mind all the time. I was wondering, what does that mean? But I would like to bring your attention to two aspects of the divine that Sanatana Dharma always talks about, the masculine and the feminine. So it's clearly explained by the use of Shri in your book. Why is it important to bring back the Sanskrit and remove the colonized language from our spiritual texts? So why is it, why do you think it is important? I know you have already given some perspective, but it would benefit us if you could throw some more light on it.
Actually, this is one of the best questions you could ask, Anjalee. Because, first of all, the word that I removed is Lord. Now, here's another fun one. Lord, or Haflard and Haflady, the British use of this word Lord means the one who cooks bread and protects the bread. So lady and Lord come from the owners of the land who cook the bread that's given as a salary to the peasants who are working the land as slaves. So Lord means the bread maker who gives bread to the peasants while they're enslaved, not owning but working on the land. So actually, properly speaking, it was the British who invented the caste system altogether, you see. And it's just exactly that. Lord is lording it over and not caring. So it's connected to the oats, I think. It's loaf lord. So guess what the Christian prayer says? Give us this day our daily bread, O Lord. So these words had to be removed. Heaven, hell, sin, Lord. Mm-hmm. These words are, and the other one is soul. Soul is from the Latin word sol, the sun. But Atma is an immortal being. The sun will burn out someday. The Atma will not. So all of this language prejudices us without our even knowing it away from the Sanskrit. So instead of using the correct Sanskrit terminology that's precise, Atma, Bhagavan, Brahman, all of these words are necessary to articulate a different worldview than the one that the Abrahamics and one lifetime people and so-called science is the unhappy child of Christianity.
So, Jeffrey G, there is one more word which has been used, rather abused quite a bit. And I have heard people quoting Bhagavad Gita for that word, which is called caste. And from what I know, that it originated from casta, which was a Portuguese word. Now, they associate caste with jati in the Bhagavad Gita. Can you throw some more light into it? Because people are using that word, or rather weaponizing it to attack people who have belief in the Sanatana Dharma. They've even come up with weird laws to start discriminating against the American Hindus, that they are casteist. So caste is not a Sanskrit word from what we know. So if you could please explain that a little bit more, that in what context is caste used in the Bhagavad Gita?
All right. Well, the original meaning of that word is something we do to animals all the time. We castrate them. So it turns out that slaves who lived in the house of rich people, if they were male slaves, they were castrated so they couldn't get anyone pregnant. Now, that may not seem relevant, except in the same time, we need to talk about the Old and New Testament, which comes from the word testicle, if you look in a dictionary. Because to testify, only men could testify, obviously. Women can't be believed. So only men could testify. And when they did, someone grabbed them by the testicles. And if they lied, they were cut off. And that's where the word testament came from, to give testimony. And so the same word, cast and castrate, they're all part of a process of not seeing us as atmas first. Second, so that's why gender became so confused. Second, not seeing we have many, many lifetimes. And third, not being scientific as in Ayurveda and Jyotish, because Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the body we got this time is a vehicle. It's a car. It's called in Sanskrit the Karana. It's a car we're driving that we made in previous lives or ordered from the catalog in previous lives. And the different departments of the universe are the devas and devis, like the departments of a big corporation. All of this missing in the worldview that tries to then now, even till today, make the Vedic viewpoint look small-minded and Now, the one thing you did mention, the jati, has to do with the fact that our genetic code is still with us because of our parents, and they because of theirs. So our ancestors are still talking to us in the body we're in. And our ancestors, because they have many lifetimes, could have gotten themselves into a lower planet or a difficult situation. But because we're still here, our actions are passed on to them by the line of debt that we owe them for giving us this body. So it isn't caste, it's connectedness. Now, the word you want for that is nakshatra. Na or naka is nighttime. The word nocturnal came to us from that. So the night is dark, filled with stars, the nakshatras. And what is shatra? Well, it's like kshatriya, it means to protect. The stars that protect us. So we who are embodied here, the stars and the planets and the grahas and all of these are giving us karma when the moment is right. So I call it UPS, Universal Parcel System. They deliver bits of our karma at a particular moment, and they're in the sky in a particular place, and they download our karma. So this entire story was hated and is still hated by Christianity, by the one lifetime religions. And science doesn't want to hear about it because it takes the spotlight away from them because they're not as scientific as they're saying they are.
So, what do these four different castes or jatis that these people refer to, like Brahman, Kshatriya,
Yep.
Vaishya, and Shudra, what is it in reality that they signifies or symbolize?
Well, once you see this, you'll really laugh. If I said to you, can you do such and such? And you say, yeah, my father could do this and this and that and that. I said, I'm not asking about your father. Got nothing to do with it. I'm asking what you can do.
Yeah.
Can you do the following? Yes or no? We'll prove it in a minute. So what you can do is called your Varna. Are you a professor, protector, producer, or provider? I have a provider. If you could see them, my nails are done very nicely. Our manicurist comes to our home every once a month or every few weeks and does my nails. That's all she does. Do I think less of her because all she does is do my nails? Do I think I'm better than her because of that? No, she's a friend. But her specialty is doing the nails. She's a Shudra. She has one skill set. That's all. Shudra just means mastering a particular service. It means to be of service. And Vaishya means farmer or business person. Fortunately for me, my partner Sandhya Devi, is marvelous at the business world and at handling finance and doing things like that. So she does that. I never look at it. So her caste, Vaishya? No. Her ability. How do you do it? You prove it. I used to be a wrestling champion in high school. I've done 5 styles of martial arts. I was at a party the other day, and some young teenage guys were there, and they were big and strong, and you know, full of energy. And we were out in the backyard, and I said, "Here, come here." So our 2 feet together. Here I am, 77, and they grabbed me by the head, and I said, "Okay, now you've got to move my foot, or I yours."
And what
20
happened?
minutes, 10 minutes later, I'd beaten every single one of them,
Oh my God.
and they couldn't move me. And they went, what's going on? I,
Amazing.
I was trained as a Kshatriya. And that's last name's Armstrong. I was a champion wrestler in high school. I've done 7 styles of martial arts and 3 styles of sword fighting. What's
Wow.
my caste? So caste is an absolute colonizing, confused, chaotic, illiterate word that has been used to try to dominate cultures inappropriately.
Well, I wish people hear that and they get a better understanding of what the so-called word caste is all about. So,
Imagine someone getting in a fight and the other person says, "My father used to be a boxer." I don't care about your father.
father, right?
What are you
What are you?
doing?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Jeffrey, in this current age of war and strife, how can this book of yours, your version of the Bhagavad Gita, how can this book help humanity? And what is the core message, you would say, of this book?
This is the hardbound,
Mhm.
gilded edge. This is the everyday at in your handbook. This is the one that's at my altar in my temple room. The Bhagavad Gita is a consistent reminder of our relationship to the source of everything, or Bhagavad. That's why it's called Bhagavad. The secret piece of knowledge about the Bhagavad Gita is that it is summarized in 4 verses in chapter 10, verse 8, 9, 10, and 11. Bahunam Janmanamante. I could do the Sanskrit, but I'll do the English instead. Sri Bhagavan says, "I am the source of everything. From me the entire creation flows. Knowing this, the wise adore me with all their hearts. Their thoughts dwell on me, their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss enlightening one another, like we're doing, and conversing about me. To those who are constantly devoted and adore me with purest love, I give the understanding by which they may come to me. Out of compassion for them, I, who live in their heart, dwelling in their heart, destroy the darkness born of ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge." This Vedic Vidya is what Sri Bhagavan suggested via the Sanskrit words, each one of which is more enlightening, shines the light on something that no other language can shine the light on. And it is that enlightened condition that every living entity secretly wants and is missing. It is not more complicated than that. That
Beautiful.
is the goal of yoga, to restore who we really are and to
Mhm.
help us be connected to an unlimited source of joy and beauty.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Jeffrey G, for joining us in our studio. It was such a pleasure and so enriching to hear you. And I know that there is another book that you have recently released, Dreaming the Countless Worlds, which is an epic creation story. So I just want to tell the audience that we look forward to hearing Jeffrey G again. He will be back in mid-January. We will be doing another episode with him. But this was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Jeffrey G. I'm sure that our audience will get to learn a lot. And we are very, very fortunate to have you in our Bharat FM, Bharat TV studio. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Anjalee.